that 13 months, how did you, I mean, most people, the vast majority of people quit 100% of this. I mean, almost 100% of the time. You didn't. Like, how was it that you were able to get through that 13 months without saying, dude, this just isn't for me, and calling it quits?
It's the only option. That's it. I mean, that's the bottom line. I have nothing else. There is nothing else that I want to do. There has never been anything else that I want to do. I have no desire to do anything else. Never have. Like I said, I mean, this is like a 16-year-old. This is like what I wanted to do. That's it. It's done. Like
it's phenomenal.
Make
it or break it. And that's what you continue to tell me. And that level of determination, I think, is you're going to look back at yourself now in the future and say, that's probably the thing that got me through to help me succeed in life. Because you, unlike so many others, just have such a deep rooted commitment to this. And you don't have the issue that most have, which is putting in the work. Yours has been something different. So I want to get into that, right? So we meet, and up until that point, business for you has been like pretty sporadic, right? Like lead generation, you haven't figured out a strategy to generate leads on a consistent basis and then convert those into income. Going back to when we first started, can you remember what it was that you said to yourself and you said to your fiance or your wife at the time, hey, I want to work with this dude. I'm just kind of curious what it was back then.
Yeah. Well, I knew I needed to do something different. So I was watching all your stuff on YouTube, and I just tried it, and I'm very skeptical. I'm with like stuff like, your program and things like that. Like, I'm like, there's no way that it can be like worth that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like that with everything. So I started I just started trying to copy you with the calls for the preview appointments, and it worked. So I was like, okay, it's working. I'm getting on these preview appointments, but I don't know what I'm doing here. I need more training, right? I need more depth. So I saw that worked. So that's when I decided I got into like the program initially where you just get the trainings. Like I didn't have access to the Facebook group or whatever.
Like the online course.
Just the online course. Yeah. Just the online course. Cause I was like, I don't need, what's the training's going to do?
Yeah. You don't need the coaching. You don't need the mentorship. You can do it all on your own. Yeah. Got it.
That's right. So I went through all of those and I was like, wow, this is great. Going on these preview appointments, but I still like wasn't getting, the traction and stuff. And so I decided to just take the leap, and I felt really good about it. Just intuition, whatever you want to call it. I was like, I think this is what I need to do. And I got in, and 100%,
Got it.
worth it.
Got it. All right. So you didn't find even so, I mean, success and results don't come easy for you. I mean, and I think, again, this will be something you look back and appreciate later in life, but going through it, it's got to be pretty painful. So I want to walk really the audience through like the level of work you were putting through, because it took you a while to get things going, but it wasn't like you weren't doing shit. Like you were doing a lot of work. So I want to talk about that period of time, and then we'll get into like what today looks like. And we'll unpack all of that. So walk us through in the beginning, like what you were doing and the pain that you were going through in the beginning before you start to see results.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm in your program. I'm making all these calls. I'm on your trainings, asking you questions, and you can tell that I'm getting better because, we role play, and you're like, wow, this is great. Like what's going on, right?
Yep.
So at the time, my wife was working. She had graduated. She was a teacher, so she's teaching, third graders. She's gone all day, and I have a kid who's about 1 year old. He's about 1 year old at the time. So I'm watching him all day while I'm making these calls.
It's crazy. I'll never forget it. It's unbelievable. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm literally, and I'm doing.
I mean, for context for the audience, like you have the baby in your hand, and then you're making prospecting phone calls on the other hand. Yeah. Like to be fair, to give like some real context of what's happening here.
No joke. Like I've got this crying baby in my arm, and I'm like this.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's crying, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I have my kid. like he won, and they're like, no, it's okay, like all the time, all the time. And so I'm trying to like set these appointments with people, and then the outbreak happens, right? So like
Yeah.
all stuff is going on. Um, and then so like man, I kind of just losing my train of thought here.
Well, that's all right. Let's get into that. So I remember back vividly, right? So like, I remember you coming on to like our coaching calls, and you'd be like, one day you'd be on fire, and then one day you would be defeated, right? It was like this constant battle between good and evil for you. There would be days where things would go your way, and then you'd get like punched in the face, and then like this constant up and down. And I think for you, it was really like, I remember us talking about like one thing at a time, right? Like you would struggle through like, okay, Brandon, I'm making the calls. I just can't set any freaking appointments, And then we'd kind of work through that. And then it's like, all right, dude, I'm going on all these appointments, but everyone's telling me to fuck off, And so I want to that's really what I'm curious is like, again, you were in another situation where you found yourself facing adversity. You were able to push through that.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So we talked about a lot how whenever I have something that I'm going through, I always have to hit every single pain point.
Yeah.
Like you're like, dude, I don't understand. Like most people hit like a couple, and then they'll like have like a success, and then they like go through a couple more, and then they like, it's kind of like, like that. But you're like, dude, you're hitting like every single pain point before you get to the other side. Like every single one, no matter what. So like I would have trouble with like calling people, like I was nervous to call people, then I got past that, but no appointments. And then like not even like a lucky appointment here and there. It was like,
right.
And then you like, okay, you get preview appointments, good job, like go on the preview appointments, they suck. Okay, get better at that. And then now that you're better at that, get better on the calls so that you can set actual listing appointments, not preview appointments. Now your listing appointments suck. Okay, now you need to get better at your listing appointment and get better on the calls, because your call needs to be stronger so the listing appointment is stronger, because your listing appointment quality sucks. And yeah,
like you didn't miss a beat. Like you went through, you're like, dude, you were the example of like going through every single pain. Like I felt for you, I'm like, man, this dude cannot catch a break. Like you're give some more context. Like how many contacts were you making when your baby was in your arms? Literally, like how many people were you talking to? How much prospecting were you doing at that time?
So I was doing like 20 to 30 contacts.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And there was one point right before, and we'll get into this, right before I stopped. You remember that there was that
Yep.
some weeks where I stopped actually. There was one point where I was doing 50, which is like and my kid at this point, he's like 1 in a few months, like coming on 6 months or something like that, 1 in 3 months. And he started walking really early. So he's like running around, getting into stuff, climbing on couches already. Like he was really
hanging from chandeliers, he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
I'm doing 20, 30 contacts a day. And then I was like, I'm not getting anything, Brandon. I'm going to ramp it up with my kid running around. So I'm doing 50 contacts a day, which I did for probably, I want to say only like a week and a half before I was like, no way. Like it was, like I was able to do it, but it was more like I was not taking care of him.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And it took me so long. I'd be done. I'd be calling from like 8 o'clock in the morning to like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would only stop to like, if he was crying, like put him down for a nap, or give him like, feed him and change him and things like that. Like really kind of, and then like I would keep an eye on him a little bit, but I just wasn't being the father that I wanted to be. Really.
Right.
And that's when I decided to stop, which we can unpack or wherever.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. So when you say stop, you just stopped prospecting pretty much, right? Like you're just like, well, I'm doing this. I'm not getting the results that I want. And yeah, let's talk about that decision that you made to stop. And then we'll fast forward to when things start to turn around for you.
Okay. So I think that it was like 6 or 7 weeks that before I started up again. School year's over in June, early June. So my wife was going to be done teaching. And so I was like, I started getting really depressed because I had all these things things really important to me that were pulling me different ways. And to be very clear, like that's not I don't get depressed. Like I don't have anxiety, I don't have depression, I don't have anything like that. So for me to get depressed was like really, really, really odd.
Well, because what was the deal you made your wife? Wasn't the deal that like you were going to go full-time real estate and she'd be able to stay home with the babies, right? Like that was that the deal? And was part of your like depression feeling like I failed this this promise that I've made to my family? Was that part of it?
So there was a few things. So first of all, I had the kid. Second of all, my wife's pregnant and working again. She's pregnant again. Which you didn't know so recently.
Right.
But, so she's pregnant again. So I'm like, I have to make this work. I'm making all these calls. I'm getting nothing from it. I'm not taking care of my kid. So like I'm feeling bad about working. And then when I'm taking care of him, I'm feeling bad about not working. And then I'm feeling bad because when I am working, I'm not getting anything. So I'm failing my wife. So I have all these different things. So I just said, you know what? Forget it. Like I'm not doing any more calls until summer hits, until my wife's done working so that I can go into the office. She can take care of the kid during the summer. And that's it. Like I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So what I did was for those 6-7 weeks, I just like retreated. And I think we talked about this. I took it and I took advantage of it though. Like
Sure.
I didn't retreat and go small. I retreated into we think about like that the story arc of the movie, right? There's always the hero retreats and he goes into training, right? Hercules, Luke Skywalker, Batman, they retreat when they have maybe a big defeat or something, and then they go train and they get stronger and they get better, and then they come out swinging on the other end, right? And that's when they that's like the peak of the story arc, right? Is after they go into training for themselves. So that's what I did. Is I went, I got off, I didn't do any social media. I started working out like crazy, which I was already working out a lot, but I did like 75 hard during this time. I worked out like a lot, getting myself really strong. Did a lot of like affirmations, waking up early.
A lot of mental mindset exercise as much as physical exercise.
Yes, both. I did both. Committed to reading a book a week during that time, which I did. I succeeded on all of these things. And I was just like, I'm watching my kid all day. I have a lot of free time when he's like taking naps and things like that. So I'm just going to take advantage of it. I'm going to do it. So I did it. And that was kind of that time. And I came out on the other end and I just went crazy.